This is the Get Vocal podcast.
So, welcome back to the Get Vocal podcast. Thank you very much for supporting the last two episodes. Today, we have a very, very special guest.
We have the boss, the gaffer, Mr. Neil Critchley. Welcome to the podcast, my friend. So, we're going to jump in with a question. We're going to open the podcast with something that is obviously in and around what we're trying to target and what we're here for.
So, straight at the deep end, what does the term mental health mean to you?
It's not something I ever, or you don't spend time to think about, really. As soon as you say mental health, I think you think in a negative way, that negative connotation, as if there's an issue or a problem, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. I think to me, I suppose, it's just how you deal with everyday life and the challenges that it brings, and whether you stay on that sort of equilibrium with what life brings to you. That's where I see my job is. Obviously, you get those ups and downs, and just how you deal with those ups and downs on a daily basis.
That brings me perfectly into my first question, if I'm honest with you. So the highs and lows of obviously your job and being in that day to day is obviously different to maybe us, for example, the pressures externally, internally, and so on. How do you manage to stay on top of that? How do you manage to maintain your own mental health? Like, say, very good answer in terms of it's something that you might not have thought about. We think a lot about physical, especially when it comes to things like exercise, football. But from a brain point of view, like how do you manage that on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, again, I think everyone's different, and everyone will have their own ways of dealing with, the stresses and challenges that they face. And, like I think about, even my upbringing and my parents and their background, and I suppose they form me as a person. And I think anyone who knows me, staff, players, know that you don't tend to get carried away by the highs, but I don't get too down with the lows either. It's about remaining consistent and believing in what you do, and that's built up through years of experience and coaching and knowledge of the game. And so you draw comfort from your past experiences and dealing with certain situations. I think experience helps of being in certain situations, because you can draw on them to help you in tough situations. But there are ups and downs in this job. There's no doubt about that. And having good people around you, people that you trust, either at work or away from work, is something also that, I rely on quite heavily, because, it's been well documented. I think managers will tell you it can be a lonely existence at times, because you do have time to think, particularly when you're driving home or you're at home at night, or, you have a lot of thoughts, and if you're not careful, those thoughts can eat away at you and possibly spiral out of control.
You feel like as your career has progressed, that you've then, like you say, you're gaining on experience and things like that. Do you feel like in the earlier days, maybe they were all lessons and things that you've kind of learned of now, that you're now learning how to deal with those better? Because like I say, you're always going to get problems, or you're always going to get lows as well as the highs, but it's you've experienced however many of those over your career, and it's learning now how to deal with them rather than like what they actually are in particular, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Again, when I was growing up, and particularly from I look at my dad and that generation, there was, that attitude of get on with it. You didn't say much, and you didn't have them conversations. And I probably, that's the way I was sort of brought up. And back then it was just, you didn't think about those things. But when now it's become more highlighted and it's more prevalent and the awareness is greater, you'll look back and think about some of them situations and think, maybe it would have been better to speak to someone. Maybe it would have been better if I had some support and some help. It was just basically get on with it, really. Now it's different. And I think that is, there's more of a willingness to be able to open up and to speak about your thoughts and feelings. And I think that's fantastic. Because I can see some of the questions that are going to come, and I'll be able to explain in greater detail that sometimes it is hard to open up and speak to people about things that you feel vulnerable about, or it makes you feel exposed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can, it's tough sometimes.
I guess there's not a lot of people in your situation being the manager. There's not many other people. Obviously, you've got staff around you, and you've got players, and you've also got people outside of here that you can rely on as well. But I guess it can be quite, or I can imagine it being quite difficult not being able to go and lean on someone, because you are essentially heading the whole thing, aren't you? So obviously, like I say, staff around you are going to help with that, but even still, I guess it must be quite difficult.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's where, there's only 92, is it? 92 managers? Like, if you don't obviously count the non-league, but you count Premier League and Football League, there's only 92 of you at any one time, which is not many in the world, is there? In this country, so to rely on people who have been in that situation before and to speak to those people and draw on their experience is of great benefit and is crucial. It's not something I'm great at, if I'm honest. I think that's a weakness of mine and something I've got to get better at.
Being able to lean on other people for, like, if
I think so. Yeah. I like to think that, down at the training ground with the environment that we create, and, I sit in with all the staff, and we speak openly and we can challenge each other. And I like to try and create that environment with the players as well. But that takes time. It's not something that you instantly build. Trust is a very difficult thing to build.
Absolutely.
In a short-termism environment in football, because managers and players come and go quite quickly. So for those players to look at you and really believe in you, trust you, takes time, and that's with staff as well. So that's also, for me, sometimes we have a saying about who makes the clown laugh, because it's it's true. You're laughing at. It's made him laugh.
No, that's something that we were talking about on, I think, the first episode with Nathan Parker. We were saying, like, a lot of when you perceive yourself as the class clown, or you are the person that always brings the spirits higher, when your spirits aren't high, who do you turn to? And that one of the best sayings I've heard.
Yeah, no, that's right. And you have to. Sometimes you have to, I know sometimes going to bed at night or waking up in the morning and driving in, is you have to get yourself in a frame of mind where sometimes it can be almost an act. Because you can't portray. You can in certain situations. Every situation is different. Context is so important. But, and again, that's where you draw on your experiences to know what mood to be in, or what to say, or how to deal with certain situations.
Okay.
But after, in different circumstances, it's, you come in and you think, well, today I need to be in a certain frame of mind to behave in this way.
Right.
Yeah. You can't behave that way if you're not thinking like that.
No,
so
100%.
Sometimes you are.
I feel like because I'm a personal trainer and I work with people on a daily basis, managing them and their fitness as such. And I think even though the context is completely different, like you're saying, sometimes I feel exactly the same way. That, like, if I've, got stuff going on or whatever it is, I've got a certain frame of mind going into a session. I can't then go in and be, portraying that to them, because they're looking to me to bring them up, or, to be that person that I'm leading, essentially. Right. So I resonate with that quite a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that people will follow you. Yeah. And they'll follow your mood and your body language. And
that filters down, doesn't it, across the whole thing.
But then people then don't know what is inside your head. As soon as that session's finished and you're leaving or you're going home, there might be something on your mind, or something that's away from, family or whatever it is, personal situation. But for that moment in time, I see that as my responsibility to the club, to the people, that you have to be on your best form.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which really leads us on to the next kind of question. So you're saying that about when you leave and when you try and have. So, do you get much chance to have downtime? Do you have any time for yourself or any time to switch off? Should we say from the daily routine?
And not really, no. Again, if I'm honest, no. So I obviously have my family back at home and my dog and things like that. But it's pretty much football, really, if I'm honest. And to be honest, I like in watching football as well. Yeah. My downtime sometimes is just watching a game that I don't have to look at in a tactical way. I can just enjoy, like watching Tottenham v Chelsea the other night. It was a fantastic game. You can just watch the game. So, you know, do you
ever truly switch off from that tactic mode, though?
No, because when you're watching the game the other night, you'd be thinking, "Oh, what would I do in this situation? What would, you know, if you went down to 10 men, if you went down to 9 men, how would you cope? If I was Chelsea and you're playing against Tottenham's high line, what are you going to do to break that down? Because that's not something you face often. So you never switch off. You don't switch off. In truth, no. My missus will tell you she often talks to me and. It's
Tottenham Chelsea. Tottenham Chelsea.
Well, it's in that VAR decision. Have you seen that?
Blah 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 blah. That's it.
That must be difficult though. That like that constant feeling of that. But then I guess do you also love it at the same time? Is that just that's why you're in this job, isn't it? I guess because that's the responsibility of, isn't it?
I've loved the game since I was minute one, and I wanted to be a professional footballer. That was it. Every waking hour was with a football. You used to dribble and juggle a football to school and every playtime, and I wanted to be a footballer. So football's been my life. That's my passion. It's what I love doing. And when I wasn't quite good enough to be a footballer at a decent enough level, I started coaching when I was young, and I just loved it, and I felt it was something that I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed helping others. I think there's a real... you don't do it for a selfish reason, but it makes, when you do something and you feel as though you're having an impact on you, it makes you feel better. And you're not doing it for that reason. But even today on the training pitch, I'm speaking to a couple of players after training, and you just speak to them about what they did at the weekend, or I spent a little bit of time with a player just doing something on the ball, and you can see like the impact it just has on them, maybe a bit of a lift, and you go away thinking, oh, maybe I've had a minuscule impact on that player today, and you think that might have helped him.
That makes a difference, doesn't it?
I think that's a massive thing. Is that's something that's kind of a really common message across all the podcasts that we've done and stuff. Is like a lot of the guests we have take a greater pleasure in giving somebody else pleasure than themselves.
Yeah.
So that feeds well and truly.
The more we can do that as human beings in general, I think not even in a work setting, and that's the whole idea of what we're doing now, like being able to share ideas, talk, because like as we obviously know, the whole reason of this is that men don't typically, and also probably in this environment as such, is even less so than it would be in the wider world. So I guess that's something that's quite important. So I like that. So switching to the football side, and obviously us, the fans, and maybe even players, if they listen to it, they'll be interested to maybe know this. They might know a little bit more than us, but how do you kind of foster a culture within a team that kind of encourages those conversations? So how do you do anything specifically that encourages that, or is it just those day-to-day things of, how's your weekend, mate, or what is it? How do you create that culture where people feel as if that's being looked after, as well as all the tactic side, the physical side, because there's so much of that. How do you do that on the opposite side?
Well, I think if you're going into a new group, or you're talking to a new group, and it obviously was a little bit different with me coming back here for the second time, but I think your first sort of couple of interactions with the players are really important in terms of whether that's a group or an individual. Again, that's built up over time. But you try to create a safe environment where you encourage feedback, you encourage people to be able to speak. And then when they do speak, you've got to make sure that you don't shut them down. You don't ridicule them. You know, you have to be very careful about using sarcasm.
Yeah.
Because then if a player feels as though he's being, you know, singled out or ridiculed in front of the team, he's never going to say anything again. So even if you don't agree with him, you have to, they have to feel as though they can say something without being a negative comment or something coming back to them. And again, I think it's important there that also I show vulnerability. I ain't going to get everything right all the time. I'm not. And if I don't, then I'm quite willing to, you know, apologise to the players and say, look, I've got that wrong as well. Because then it shows that you're human.
Yeah.
We don't get everything right.
You're not
and
putting yourself up there.
They'll think then that, all right, if the boss has made a mistake, then it's okay for me to make a mistake. As long as we try and learn from them all the time, it helps to improve that sort of learning environment where you make a mistake, no problem, own it, let's take responsibility for it and move on. And then over a period of time, it's how you deal with people privately, individually. They might need some support from you. They might need some help. Football. As I said to you before, football can be a very mistrusting environment because of the short-term nature of it, and to build that belief and togetherness and spirit takes time and effort.
Mm-hmm. I guess you almost like lay the foundations when you first kind of get into that situation of like, I think it's probably a lot of your own beliefs, your own values, or what you want the club or the team to have. I guess that's quite interesting. If they're buying into that and they then believe in you, they're going to give everything to you. That's you're laying that down from the
It's that leading from the front of it's like a tribe mentality, isn't it? It's like we've got the manager is the kingpin.
Yeah.
And we will all go to war for that.
That's right. And they're waiting for those moments where they see that chink in the armour. And that's when in the tough moments, adversity. So when you're 3-0 down against Peterborough with 10 men, what do we do? What happens? That's when you see, that's when I'm so proud of the players, because I think then, no, the players really went for it. They stuck to who we were, the real values on that, like, this is us. And we went for the game. We went for it. And now you could say we should have gone for it a lot sooner. Yeah, that's what we were saying after the game. But the players knew that, and I knew that. We didn't get it all right. We're never going to. But that's when, even though we lost, I was like, the players know that I'm right with them. I'm right behind them. In those moments of defeat or when there's a tough period, they've got to know that you're with them and you're not going to criticise them. You're not going to openly criticise them, particularly in public. That doesn't mean to say I wouldn't criticise someone, individually or I say criticise, that's probably the wrong word. Challenge them, confront them, but then support them through that process of helping them to improve and get better. They need clarity and consistency. And I'd like to think that's some of my strengths. I've got some weaknesses as well, and I don't get everything right. But I think the players know that they'll get my support.
Absolutely. You were saying before about football being so unique in the structure, everything is so unique. Are there specific challenges, do you think, that our footballers face mental health wise, and like the approaches that you've carried out over the years, how you've changed the way you've spoken to players when they've come to you? How it's like, obviously 10 years ago, if they come and you've acted one way, have you changed your mindset now with how you approach that? You go back to, and again, I wasn't a professional footballer at any level, but I was in dressing rooms at professional level and non-league level, and it was very much more critical and individual based, as in you would get sometimes, dug out, if you like, so to speak, in front of everyone. And I don't like to do that now. If there's and that's not to say, if the players feel your support and trust and you know which ones you can speak to in that certain way, then there's nothing wrong with that, right, in a team environment. But I try to use pretty much my phrases and the words is pretty much always around the collective, like we.
rather than singling someone out.
You know, what can we do better? We didn't do this. We need to do this better. We did this very well. Why, you know, so it becomes more of a us, we.
Do you see that's more beneficial? I mean, from singling out, obviously you've seen experiences where people have been singled out and then you use the collective. Do you see that as a lot more beneficial and a lot more positive on the whole outcome where you're trying to work towards?
I do, yeah. Again, because I go back to, you know, that like this sort of mistrusting environment is, and look, I think that, you know, I have to move forward with the times, and society and people are different now. They are, and they think differently. Social media is obviously a massive part in that. It plays a huge part in that. You can get basically criticised, attacked on your own phone in your own home. You're not safe. And you know, it used to be. I find my solace is when I go home and close the door. I feel protected. I don't feel, you know, I feel calm, safe. I'm with my family. I'm not on social media at all. It scares the life out of me. But I know players are on that, and I know they read it, and I know it affects them. So me, I don't want to make that any worse.
No.
I say that I think the players need to know that I'm with them 100% if they're showing certain characteristics that we value as a staff and as a football club.
Because everyone's completely different. I think that's a thing from your point of view that, again, must be difficult, is the fact that how one person responds to a way that you deal with something is completely different to another player or even your staff or whatever it is. So you're almost having to wear however many different hats. You know, you can't just be one way the whole way, because then if you are, you're going to single out people that maybe don't like feel that way. Is helping them, I guess. So you're having to literally be managing, obviously, all these the players and the staff and everyone like that. So that must be hard in itself, like having to wear all those different hats, I guess.
It is, but that's the beauty of the job. That's why I love it. That interaction and knowing how to deal with players and knowing when to pull them for a chat, when to leave them alone, what to say. And I don't always get it right. I definitely don't. But that is my passion was always in, you know, I came through as coaching younger players, developing younger players and helping them to try and have a career in football. And because that's been in me for such a young age, even though I've been a head coach, if you like, for the last 3 years, that's ingrained in me. That will never leave me. Developing people and helping them to grow as people, young players. And when you're at a club like Liverpool, where I was for 7 years, the pressure's enormous on some of those young players. And that's where you can build a really strong bond, a real, you know, close relationship. And it's probably harder in a senior environment, again, because of the short-term nature of it. But I think now with the group we've got here, I've got some good relationships, close relationships with some of the players, particularly the ones who've been here a little bit longer, because there's a trust there. You know,
it's time, isn't it?
Time, time. You need time, and I think there's good examples across football at the moment where teams grow and improve. It's not just about obviously what happens on the football pitch, is recruitment and everything, bringing the right types of character in players, but teams will improve with good people around them. And I think there's good examples in, you know, the higher end of the Premier League where those coaches have been there for quite a long time, and you can see there is such a powerful, it goes sort of beyond just what happens on the football pitch, and you can sense it. Yeah. You can feel it.
It's an identity, isn't it? To a team or to...
Yeah, not just the way they play, it's the way they behave.
Yeah.
In all situations on the pitch. Sometimes you only see that when teams are losing.
Yeah. Because that is their value. That going back to it, that's their values that either the managers or they have personally, either from their upbringing, maybe.
Yeah.
I was a bit off topic, but in terms of, is that something that you might look for in a player, for example? Is it like the character?
Yeah.
Rather than, let's say, the actual ability?
Yeah.
Their actual character, how they respond to pressures or on the football pitch? Is that something that you look at?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. We, when we're recruiting players, we a lot of due diligence on the player, and we're trying to speak to as many people as we can about them who know them, because you want to bring in the right types of characters that reflect the values of the football club and the group that you're trying to form.
I find that fascinating, though.
We do a lot of work on it, and I think that's the strength of the group I had last time. I think we're getting towards that now. We've got a really good group of, you come down to the training ground, it's a good place. No, don't get me wrong, we can win a game and you're happy. If you lose a game, you're sad and disappointed, but there's something that goes beyond the result on a Saturday. It's more than that. And that's what I think, last time I was there, so like people say, oh, what was what was the best part? What was it? Was it getting promoted? And for me, it wasn't. It was the group that we built and the togetherness and the spirit and the feeling that we had. That was the most special thing for me, because when you turn up to work every day, to have that environment and those people around you where you feel someone's got your back or someone's going to help you in a tough moment, that's more that's greater than what happens on a football pitch on a Saturday afternoon.
And does that relate in terms of so when you notice that and you've got that environment and you're like, right, we've cracked it, do you then start noticing performances improving, results?
Yeah.
The whole feel around the club and what you've generated then goes onto the football pitch.
I think it gives you the best chance of having sustained success. So you can have a really poor culture, but win a game of football.
There's no point doing it for a week, is there? Something that you're trying to create.
So you might get lucky and win one weekend, but coming back in on a Monday that the environment's not right, the discipline's not right, the professionalism's not there, there's not good people in the dressing room, and that next Saturday, you're not going to achieve what we want to achieve if we keep every day, if this is our routine and if these are our behaviours, it isn't going to be sustainable. You can lose a game, but know that, we're building towards something. And if we keep on this path, it's going to give us the best chance of having success going forward, which is, I know I mentioned Tottenham, Chelsea before, and I read, I listened to Big Ange after the game, and he said,
it's fascinating.
This is what we do.
Yeah.
So, we're down to 9 men. If we're down to 5 men, we're going to attack the game. So you look at that 2 ways. Oh, what's he doing? Playing like that. But he's saying, when he's first gone into the football club, he's trying to build something that's bigger than that game on that night.
Yeah.
He's trying to build something for the future that this is us. This is what we do. This is how we play the game. And we are not changing because these are our beliefs. These are our principles. And I've got total respect and admiration for that. It made it a fascinating game, whether it was right or wrong. But that's his way.
Yeah, it's fascinating because, like you say, of listening to the things that he's said is very much he's quite open about talking about that sort of stuff as well. But like you say, he's trying to create something with the whole club, not even just the team, but I've seen videos of after the game when they win a game and all the fans are going nuts, dancing in the stands. Have you seen it? And it's he's trying to create something a lot bigger than that, which is again values, identity, all that kind of stuff.
That's what you see here though, with the fist pumps, and that is it. You're incorporating everything, isn't it? Like you say, the fans. During COVID and stuff, there was all the banners had nothing, footballers without fans. Incorporating everybody gives that whole positive feeling, doesn't it? It's incredible to see. In your experience, how interconnected do you think the physical and mental well-being is for footballers, athletes? Do you think we're seeing a change now where we see training sessions, don't we, where you've got the sports monitors on and every physical aspect is measured.
Yeah.
How is the mental side of this measured? Is there regular check-ins? Do you sit down as a team and say, have anyone got any issues? Or get vocal, obviously. Yeah. Men sit down and discuss it. Do you have the same with the team? And
again, I think that comes down to the environment that you create.
Okay.
Obviously, I always speak to the players about every manager will say, and it's an easy thing to say, if you have an issue, my door's always open. Everyone would say that, or come and knock on my door. But if the players don't feel comfortable enough to come and knock on your door, then that's the problem. So it's easy for me to say that, I'd like to think that they feel as though they could do that because of the way that you deal with the individuals when there is an issue, there is a problem, or just someone needs to do something on a certain day, and you go, well, fine, yeah, no problem. And football is what we do, but there's more to life than football sometimes, and everyone has families and friends and other interests, and football doesn't define you as a person. It's what we love doing. It's our passion, me more than anybody. But I also have to remember that, I've got a family and they need me sometimes. And
life is life.
Life is life. So I understand that sometimes there's going to be ups and downs in people's lives, and it's not about just what happens in training every day. And it's you hope you know the players well enough over a period of time to be able to spot moments when they might need a bit of help, or someone might need to just have a little chat to say, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is everything all right? I've just noticed the last few days, or you're looking for those little signs of, and that's where you've got to use your eyes, you've got to use your ears, and you've got to rely on the people around you, because it might not be me, it might be the physios, it might be the sports scientists, because sometimes they don't want to show a vulnerability to me, because I'm the person who picks the team at the weekend, and I might be the one who decides not their future, but they've got a family, they might be out of contract at the end of the season, and they've got to get in the team, and if they're showing a weakness to me, I'm not going to pick them. And that's not nice. That's not nice.
That's because, like, all the things that you're saying, what we're trying to do, obviously, with this is what you're saying there is what we want other people to look for. Like you were just saying then, like the signs, use your eyes, use your ears. Like if you're chatting to someone and you can see something, because we've done it before. This is where the whole thing created, wasn't it? Like when you can notice that in someone, it's a skill. I think it's something that is worked on. It's not everyone has it.
No.
Which there's no right or wrong answer with that, I don't think. But I think if we can try and encourage that as much as we can, as such, to be able to become leaders almost within ourselves and our own little tribe, because in your situation, obviously, it's a lot broader and things like that. But even just a group of mates, if you've got someone in that group of mates that's the one that goes, something's a bit off, mate. Like, are you feeling you all right? Because not everyone is going to do that, and we notice that. You'll probably notice that not everyone's got that quality of that skill.
No.
So that's difficult, and it's almost like balancing the need and the want for success, because you want everyone to be better in themselves to drive towards a goal, because you're not in it for no reason. So how do you find like managing?
But that
two?
gives you the best chance of success.
Yeah.
If you're noticing them things, because it shows that you value certain things and you care about them. You care about them as a person. Those well, not nuances. It's like the unforeseen things. It's the hidden coaching. It's not the coaching that takes place on the grass.
Yeah.
It's just that little, as you're walking off, everything okay? I've noticed that last couple of days, everything all right at home.
Sorry. Are you seeing more of a rise of the arm round the shoulder kind of management style at the moment in football?
I mean, if you look back to, some of the older generation and,
I was going to say someone there, but
let's
how they managed and dealt with people, and it's just different, and you have to move. You have to move with the society and life, and it is different. It is changed, and if you, I think for the better.
Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't mean it as like a contentious question. It was you're seeing more of a rise, because you are seeing it. Obviously, when you go to games, you see it when on the TV. Players come off, and it's kind of like right, okay,
yeah.
Well,
I think the fans then see that, though. Yeah. The fans then see that and think that there's more, rather than you being like this person, and then everyone, like, you're all interconnected as a team. That's what you're trying to aim for, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it was it. The players know that it's not about me. I'm not here to try and It's not me being front of the show, number one. It's all about me, and it's about them and me trying to help them. So with my staff, I say it's like we don't put ourselves above them. We're not on a pedestal above them where they're below us. In fact, sometimes they have to feel as though they're above us because they're the ones that are the most important. So it's not, you have to get that line right between, you don't have to necessarily be friends, but there has to be respect there, and there has to be a feeling of, this person cares about me and he supports me.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think in terms of probably bringing it on to the last question, and that is something that obviously you have to deal with. But anyone listening to this, because obviously we're talking about players, we're talking about people that you obviously see on a daily basis, but the problem is a lot wider than that, the whole community. That's the whole reason why we've got this. What would be your best advice to anyone who is wanting or needing to open up? Maybe they feel as if they can't. Maybe they haven't got all these things that we're talking about, the support network, the team around them, whatever. It's a bit of an on-the-spot question, I guess, but in terms of what would your best advice be? But you've probably already answered the question with the things that you've said before in terms of all the things that you mentioned.
Yeah. It goes without saying, and it might not be straight away. I think, again, everyone is different. Sometimes, depending on the situation, the context, circumstance, is you might not be ready to open up or speak. But definitely at that point when you feel as though you have to or you need to, having people around you or a person, someone that you can just go and speak to, or a place, or go and, whether that's a class or going to the gym or whatever, finding a hobby where you can interact with people. Losing games of football is horrible. It is horrible. It's the worst feeling in the world, particularly when you care about what you do and you desperately want to make people happy. So when we lose a game, it's horrible. Horrible. The next day I would gladly not get out of bed. I would gladly not speak to anyone. So it's difficult, really difficult. So having whoever it is, family, someone understanding the situation that you're in, showing you some empathy. Sometimes you need that arm around the shoulder. It is so important, because I'd gladly not speak to anyone all day on a Sunday if we've lost on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to force myself to speak or to interact with people. But I've never ever felt worse for speaking to someone.
Yeah.
I've always felt better, which always tells me, well, why do I not do this more often?
I see that in sessions when people come to me and they come in a certain mood, maybe like that, where they feel as if they maybe don't want to speak
Quiet,
to me. Yeah.
Not engaging.
Yeah. And I'm like,
don't interact.
Right. And then opens up like a conversation. And then when they leave, just like in your situation, you might have that with someone, in and around you. And then there is no downside to it, in my opinion, to sharing that with someone. Even if someone just sits there and listens, like you say, it might not be someone that actually understands the actual problem itself in terms of that feeling of, because if you spoke to me about being a manager of a team of losing a game of football, I won't have a clue what you're talking about because I've never done it. But in terms of that empathy, like you say, and that feeling, you will feel better speaking to me about it, or I will feel better talking to my friends about it, or whoever it is. So having those people around you, I think, is really key, and that's
having someone who can listen is really important, because listening is a skill. Yeah. So finding that person who can just let you sometimes talk nonsense and waffle on about.
I won't talk for like 30 minutes in a session sometimes. I'll ask someone a question like, "You all right?" And then I'll just be nodding for half an hour. Yeah. Literally, I'll be like, "Okay, cool." That's it. And then like almost encourage them to go on, because like you say, if you just shut them down or you judge them, or maybe sometimes give you your opinion when it's not needed, that can shut them down.
Yeah, they're not going to come and speak to you again.
Yeah. So it's just like, okay, cool.
But that's why they've chosen you.
Yeah, I guess
And that's why they've chosen you to speak, because they know that you're that person.
I love that privilege.
Yeah,
so you've created that environment, which is what we try and create as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank
you very much.
Fascinating.
It's been fascinating. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for your time. Yeah.
If you've enjoyed the podcast, don't forget, subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Until next time. Bye.
Take care.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.